So here's an interesting perspective of the ITS is it deals with something that really nobody cares about. But we enlighten in it and we become, modernized and we become experts in things that are important that people don't necessarily care about. Now let's go to an NFL football game in the wintertime. It's in the north, Minnesota Vikings or something, and the temperature is in the teens. They still play the game. And there's a little bit of snow on the field, and they still play the game. And they're not dressed for it. They're just wearing socks, and their football pants only go down to their knees. And it's like spandex. And their arms are open. Sometimes they'll wear like an extra long sleeve shirt, or a long sleeve like insulated leggings, But that's not much. In 18 degrees, it's super cold. And so when they go to the sidelines, they have these big, long jackets. And then they, zip up in them while they're on the sidelines. And I don't know if they have heaters. They should have heaters on the sidelines. That would help those guys. That would increase their performance in the game. They should just spend extra money and blast like 20 heaters. And it costs a lot of money, I don't know, in fuel or electric. Just for the game, it probably costs like $200 to power these heaters in electrical or fuel costs. But who cares? Just blast it, and keep these guys warm on the sidelines. And they go out and do the plays, and they have extra capability to play the game, I would think. But nobody cares about this stuff. They sit on the sidelines. You see them exhaling, and it's like white smoke. That's when it's down in the teens. When it's in the 30s, that smoke doesn't come out of their nostrils and mouths. But when it's in the teens, it's white, like a powdery smoke right out of the football players. And they kind of, I guess, pride themselves in playing in the cold in the NFL because it's tough guy stuff. So they don't think about it, they don't really care about it. But I believe some of them, get frostbite and stuff like that, and they still don't care. But it sees it. Don't you see what I'm saying? It sees that, we love the game of football, and these people are normal people, and the very cold football games are kind of rare. Maybe there's, in the north they play a lot of cold football games outside if they don't have a stadium. Sometimes the stadium's open in the wintertime on the roof. We'd like to have domes and then maybe heat them or something like that. Or keep the temperature, kind of reasonable in there. Like in the 30s or something at least. Above freezing. So they can play the game well, Instead of just saying we don't care and it doesn't matter and we're just tough guys and that's just the way it is. Both sides are freezing, so it's kind of equal. Just forget all that stuff and take all of be, I guess, strict about that your performance might be affected by the cold weather, but you can probably invent some kind of jacket that connects to like a tube or something. Let him put a tube in his jacket. It has hot air blowing right into his jacket. Why not do it? Do something like that. Then he unzips his jacket, goes out to do another play, and it's only like a few minutes, and they come back to the sideline or whatever. But sometimes they don't stop the clock, or they get a lot of first downs from running, and they're out there a long time, and these guys are freezing, But let's leave the NFL alone. What I'm saying is that's the kind of mentality in ITMCS, because I don't want to be obsessed with winter survival, but it is part of it. Now let's go into the soldiers of war, not the international military or the civilian survival. Go into the soldiers of war in the past and just read about them. Be fascinated with people outdoors, I guess, surviving. But in reference to, wartime survival and wartime soldiers and battles, these guys don't have a whole lot that they have. They might have like a good jacket and pants or something and insulated undergarments and stuff like that. But really, think about it. Think about it the way I think about it. I've been out there and I've hiked for, an hour or 2 hours in this, and, it didn't matter what I was wearing. The cold seeped through, and it just became like, wow, I became sick. And I was afraid, and I was looking for like a store or a gas station, and I'd be a little bit stumbling, like I had signs of hypothermia many times, hundreds of times in the last 5 years. I've been on the borderline of hypothermia because I'm not real smart in this stuff to care about it. We just don't care. But I didn't, I didn't worry about it. I walked into a gas station, and it was real cold out, in the 20s, and I would purposely kind of walk around kind of looking like I was searching the products and stuff because I needed about 4 minutes. 5 minutes is a little bit too long to kind of lurk in the store. But this is late at night, and I'm very far from home, like 2 miles from home, so I had to warm up in that store. That was helpful, but sometimes the guy working in the store would say something. 1 or 2 times he would say, that I was in the store too long. But they're pretty good to you in the cold weather. But I was purposely trying to find warmth. Like, I didn't want to buy a cold soda because I would put cold fluid in my body. I went over to the coffee machine. I was like, great, hot coffee, hot chocolate. Liquid hot water is great. I could put it in my body, and it would be a chance for me to get home without being in the shakes, without losing my coordination. It's been that way sometimes. I was on the border of like hypothermia, and I was about coming to my property, walking home, and my leg didn't work like I told it to walk, and it wasn't walking, and I had to stop. And then I would walk kind of limping. That's because my body heat's being sucked into my torso from being out there too long. It seeps in. So let's go back to the war. These guys don't have access to heat. If they do fires at night, just like my other video, I taught you how to do that. And that's a part of ice survival in the military. I was taught that from an actual U.S. Marines trainer. All that stuff in the video is from U.S. Marines. A sniper, he taught me about firelight, and seeing the enemy and taking sniper shots and stuff. The survivalist taught me how to go through what would take somebody else down there, just fall and probably freeze to death. But you have the ability to go through it in a traversing manner. You don't want to just stay somewhere and just live there through the winter. You want to have a hope, like a 20-mile hope, and that's what he taught me how to do. So that river survival is from the United States military trainer. And, they sleep in these cocoons, or they sleep in cocoons of snow. And if they can't, I want to share some severe things, but I don't want to scare you. So that's why I'm bringing in wool in this video. Wool is too hot for hiking. It retains heat. And it's perfect for sitting still. It's the best in a cocoon. So you want to carry it in your pack. You don't want to wear the wool. Because you could wear just about anything, like normal clothes and a normal jacket and hike, and you're warm enough in 20 degrees. Maybe not in the 10s and the teens. The wool would help you in that. But we're not going to go into like sub-zero temperatures because I just want to keep in the ITM. Because what happens is, I'll just scare you away from the ITM. You don't even want to do it. You just stay home and pray to God and thank Him that you have a heated house or an apartment. You'll just stay home. Well, that's nice too because that causes you to appreciate your basic needs met, and that's great to appreciate things. But I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to say that you can be empowered more than usual. There's 2 ways to do it. Well, there's 3 ways to do it. My ice survival trainer friends techniques, which are kind of like scary. The second one is that you learn the use of wools, like wool hats, scarves, a wool vest. Wool vest can retain heat around your chest. And what that does is it causes the heat to be able to go back into your legs and your arms, and how your body and your nervous system understands heat retention. We don't realize the value of a vest. A vest is very unusual. You say, well, it doesn't heat my arms. It does heat your arms. Try it sometime. in cold weather, wear a vest. An extra vest over your shirt and under your jacket. And it has that your arms and your legs are warm. Why? I'm not covering my arms or legs. It's because you have so much heat from the vest that your body allows the heat to go out to your arms and your legs through the circulation of blood. And it'll increase the circulation of blood so that your appendages will kind of take away the excess heat from this vest. Or it doesn't reduce your heart rate to conserve blood in your chest like how it happens when it's severely cold outside and that scary stuff. So try vests. Try not wearing vests, see what happens. Experiment, but don't turn yourself into an experiment. But you have to. You have to know yourself. You have to know your current capabilities. And you'll find that you might just start from the ITMCS. You'll say, well, I'm checking the temperature on my phone. It's 23 degrees outside. Well, let's just put a vest on, and then just wear my normal jacket. And you go outside and you're quite toasty, quite warm. And you didn't have to wear, a big sweatshirt and an extra jacket, and you overdid it. And you started sweating, and then you had chills from your sweating. So the ITMCS, even if you don't become like a soldier or a survival specialist, it can cause you to be incredibly knowing about what is kind of comfortable through the winter time and how to dress and what to do. So that's a nice benefit of it. But the second one is the wools and the vests and the scarves and the hats made out of wool. Your head has a lot of heat because there's a lot of blood in your head. Now this is jargon of these U.S. military survival specialists. There's a lot of blood in your head, so your head has a lot of heat, kind of like the middle of your chest. Well, if you look at your forearm, there's not a lot of blood there underneath. So you have to figure out ways to take care of your arm more so than your torso and your head. That's the survival. You can do it with wools. Here's what I would do. Carry a polymer hat in the wintertime, which is normal. And then you feel the cold through the polymer hat because it's 20 degrees out. And just let it be that, don't be comfortable. Then you could try, it's too cold, and now I add the wool hat, and I take off my polymer hat, and I put my polymer hat in my jacket. You'll find that the wool hat can retain heat on your head to the point where you don't even notice it's cold out. And so you don't dissipate heat either. You don't want to dissipate heat from your chest or your head. So you can do that with a wool vest and a wool hat, but you didn't have to wear a wool suit. But here's the thing, when you start to deal with my formula on the rivers, you might want to go into the third one. The third one is like amazing wools and amazing ice specialist. So it's kind of like three things. It's like what we do is normal, we don't care, and it's not too bad. Sometimes we get frostbite and chills and we make it into buildings. It's not that bad. The second one is the survivalist and some wools, like a vest and a hat wool. Just try it. Sometimes a wool scarf, but you want to put a wool scarf and then a polymer scarf over your mouth so you can breathe through the polymer or cotton scarf, because you can't breathe through wool. You want to be able to breathe through it so that it heats the scarf and then it's kind of better, Because if you just wrap a wool scarf around your face and start breathing, it'll seem always like you're breathing cold air because it's sucking in air around it, and it doesn't really, sometimes it doesn't help. But I think if we invented a very thin wool scarf, it'd be weight, issue of taking care of it would be lightweight, and it would be permeable where you could breathe through it, like a very, very thin wool. This is the third dimension. And then you're out there in this terribly cold weather, and this thin wool scarf, you would think, that's too thin. But it's not, because it retains heat, and it's permeable, and you can breathe through it. So you do these amazing things when we study wools. We study vests and hats. But I think in the third one, we want to consider carrying in our backpack, which is not the size of like somebody going to school with a backpack. It's bigger than that. It may not be as big as the ones that we used in Canada, because we used full aluminum frame ones, and the packs probably had 70 pounds of stuff in it. It's maybe not that much, because that's kind of hard to hike. You can do that if you want to, I guess. But I would like to roll up a very thin wool full suit. You know, like a full jumpsuit, like somebody that's like a mechanic uses that. You know, and you get grease all over it when they're working, and they take it off and they have normal clothes under it. A full jumpsuit with a zipper all the way up to the top and the neck, made out of thin wool, because it's strong enough when it's thin and it retains heat. But you don't want to use this jumpsuit when you're hiking, because it would just boil you. It'd be too hot, and you'd sweat. You don't want to sweat. And you don't want hypothermia, and I guess when you're a pro at this, you don't want to be too warm. You want to get used to being like, wow, I'm not really that comfortable, but I'm not in hypothermia. But you can really move, and you can hike, and you're safe, and you're above hypothermia. That's a pro, but you're only doing this for like I said, like 2 weeks. And you know you're in a survival mode, and you're migrating. This is what the ice survival specialist taught me about. He's not running around looking for a den so he can be toasty warm. He's moving through forests in a mountain area, valleys, and he's getting somewhere in like 20 miles. And it doesn't matter if he's really all that warm, but it matters if he's too cold. Do you see what I'm saying? But it's only for a short period of time. So that's where it gets kind of scary. The third one is that we do amazing things though. Now, it's not the wool and the heat that's amazing. It's our adaptation in the physical, our perception, is that you can go out for a mile or two hike in a very cold wintertime, and you can say, I'm not warm doing this hike. I have a certain dress factor with some wools, like a wool hat and wool vest. Sometimes people like runners, they dress kind of thin clothing because, well, they kind of generate heat, you know, because they're moving fast. We don't want to move that fast, because we would have to dress like them, like it produces heat. Sometimes they go down real far below where they're comfortable, and then, well, they're wearing spandex, and it's very cold, and they're running, and you could ask them, and you could say, are you warm? And they say no. Are you hypothermic? And they say no. It's somewhere in between. That's you being amazing in the third one. Do you see what I'm saying? We need to be more amazing where we can operate in the cold. Now let's relate this to something. Just go on YouTube and do all these relativities. Study meat cutters in grocery stores. They come out, you know, and they give us like ground beef and steaks and fish, and they're out with their white, like kind of like a jumpsuit, and they're stocking stuff in the meats area, you know. They go back in, and well, you can do this someday if you want to. But you do web studies, you do practices, you do it with people if you can, and then you talk to people that relate to it. I do it. I start conversations with strangers. It was 7 a.m. in the morning. I walked into an area, and the meat cutter was out, and I said, wow, he's usually not out till like 10 a.m. or so. Because people aren't buying meat at 7 in the morning sometimes, you know. Around noon, they'll start buying steaks and burger and all this stuff. Well, he was out at 7 a.m. doing some work, and so I walked up and I said, wow, you're a meat cutter, right? And he says, yes. I said, well, I have friends that are meat cutters, and I used to do some meat cutting with them, like, for fun. I'd, like, visit them at work and stuff, and they'd ask me to help them and stuff, and it was just kind of like having fun, you know. And, you know, I'm a snow survivalist, a snow tiger, you know, ice tiger. I walk around outside in the snow, and I go on hikes. Not so much at my age anymore. You know, I cut that way down because, well, I have a back injury from my youth, and I have sciatica, which is, well, I can't do this stuff much. I have a lot of like nervous pain if I hike. But I have all the stuff, through my whole life, and I did it, but not anymore too much. I've been cut down to I'm almost cut down to nothing. But, I try those little short walks and stuff now. Sometimes I use a cane, so you would say, well, you're pretty much done. Well, that's true, but I did this all my life. So I was talking to the meat cutter, and I said, what's the temperature back there when you're working, all through your shift? He said it's like 45 degrees. Because 45 degrees is a refrigerant temperature, not a freezer temperature. At about 40, 45 degrees, that's kind of where meat is refrigerated. But he still has to work in that for long periods of time. And, they get so used to it that their temperature kind of rises. And all meat cutters have like a hotter temperature. So you look at them, they're just wearing like a t-shirt. A t-shirt and the white, kind of like a jumpsuit, or like a doctor's white jacket. And you look at them and you say, well, that they're not dressed for that 45 degrees. It's because their clock and their temperature and their blood flow is so adapted because they've been doing this for years. They literally work like 6 hours of their shift in 45 degrees. And then you can also compare it to carpenters that work outside in the winter. Just go on YouTube. Search specifics. You can search it in Google first if you want to. And it could refer you to YouTube or Yahoo or Dailymotion and many places to find how they deal with the cold. And you'll find that some of them, they just adapt. Others might use like these little open package heat things for their hands. Those cost money though. And those are heavy to carry with you. But those are nice to have. Like, let's say I have 20 heat packs. But that's maybe part of me having beans, though, or survive an extra 2 days or something. So I don't know if I want to carry heat packs. I want some kind of amazing techniques in this level 3. Well, I have all that stuff. From the ice training, from the walls, and from my ice tiger hiking. I have the ability, but I can't tell you you're going to be in a military situation that's very dangerous. I don't think you're going to be warm. Maybe once in a while, like you get to a fire and it's the first hour or two. But I mean, you can't stay up with a fire. You have to sleep. So, it's warm, but not that warm. You can build the lean-tos to go. I think we can get them to go 5 hours from one fire, and we sleep all the way through. And it was from warm at 50 degrees down to 30. But it didn't drop into the actual temperature of 20 or something. But I'm not telling you you're going to be warm. Maybe a little bit per day. Like if there was 2 sets of fires per day in the daytime, you might want to do that if you like, if you like to be warm. But go and watch construction workers. They're not warm while they're working. They just have a mentality that's kind of, somebody would say it's kind of strange. And they don't dress all that much. Like, they're moving around, though, and their bodies are staying a little bit warm. But if you talk to them, it's like, I don't have frostbite in my hands. I have a good pair of gloves with thin slate or something, or down or something. So you want to have those things on a winter survival, down, thin slates, if you can afford that stuff. Then you're amazing, is what I'm saying. You're an amazing person because you don't have to be toasty warm. But that takes a while. Like, we want to be toasty warm. Because that's what our body says feel good. And it's less sick. But I've tested it already this winter. I've tested my own body and myself at least 5 to 6 times in the cold weather that's come so far, and it's between 20 degrees and like 35 degrees. 5 times I've come home and I was not warm after being out for a couple hours, sometimes 3 hours doing whatever. It's not just hikes. It's going places, shopping, just going to a coffee shop or the library. Well, it's been like 3 hours that I've been trying as an effort to keep it in the survival, keep it in the ITMCS. So, but I'm near a metro. Like, you might not have that luxury to use 3 hours because you have to drive 20 miles there, you have to drive 10 miles this way. So I understand that. I'm just giving my example, as I can function and do all my business work and all my, duties and stuff in reasonable walking distance from my home, like a mile from my home. That's a luxury. I take advantage of that, and it saves fuel. It's very green. What I'm saying is the third level is we become amazing. We become amazing. It's like, well, I came home and I'm cold, but I'm not shivered. Even if I'm a little shivered, I just walk in the house. I don't pay attention to it. I don't get wrapped up in it. But I could probably stand by an electric heater. So I recommend this. Buy yourself a little electric heater with a fan on it. And then when you walk in your house, you take your jacket off or whatever, just kind of blow the fan. I would blow the fan at your chest area. Because I'm talking about being kind of cold when you come back. Like you're borderline where you're coughing. Like I said, 5 or 6 times I've come home and where I thought, because I was coughing. One time I was sneezing. So here's another amazing trick where you become amazing. I knew that I didn't need to sneeze because there was something not obstructing my nasal canal, like dust or something. It was my body trying to sneeze because my nasal passages were actually lower in temperature. Like I'm saying, you're becoming an amazing person in the CS. The civilian survival is, you snap into a mode during a military survival and you have to go 2 weeks, and it's, well, the only thing on your mind is you don't want to get hypothermia, but you're not really worried if you're toasty warm. That's the amazing person. Do you see what I'm saying? That's how soldiers are in war. They're just tough guys. They're working in trenches and they're cold. But they have a warm clock. They're conditioned for it. Well, the Ukrainian soldiers, those are all farm men. They work all the time outside. That's why the Russian has such a difficulty conquering the Ukrainian army, because he's fighting farm men. Farm men are the toughest men on earth. So yes, to a certain extent, there's a conditioning you can do. I've done it in the past month. Now I walk outside and I become very cold, and I'll sit there a little extra, like 20 minutes extra. I said, wow, I'm getting real cold here. I'm sitting by like a cafe outside. I'm getting real cold. Well, I'm going to read the news over here in a different part of the earth and stuff and get this done. Ooh, I'm feeling it. It's real cold. I felt my leg kind of shiver. Whoa. So I get up and I start moving and I'm walking. I'm stumbling some because, well, I think I have played too much with hypothermia and I shouldn't do that. But I'll tell you this. On the way home, the second time was coughing, sneezing unusually, like sometimes 15 times. And I was purposely out there seeing how tough I could be in the cold, because I'm working CS. So it worked. It's just that when I came home, there was an unusual shake in my body. Like, whoa, wow, my arms, my legs were like spazzing. I said, that's a little too much. But that only lasted the first 2 times. The second, up to the 6th time, was the same amount of cold. But my legs and my arms didn't have the shake. It didn't have the hypothermia. So in just a few weeks' time, I've been conditioned, and I believe that I can stay out longer. And then, recently, even tonight, I was out for a while. I could feel it, though. It's like 20 degrees today. It's too cold. So you don't want to mess with it too much. By the time I got home, I felt it penetrating my body. It was cold. But I was not shaking. But if it comes back, you have to expose yourself to heat. Like, if you start shaking on the river survival, kind of scary. You have to start a fire. If it's at nighttime, you have to risk it. You have to start a fire, and you have to have a hot source. It has to be kind of towards your chest and your arms and your legs, and you just have to. Well, I would crouch down and just be right there by the fire where it's not burning your clothes. And then, you have to restore whatever it is, whatever amount of time that is. If it's 15 minutes, do it. Well, you can have that little electric heater, and I was doing it. I'd put the electric heater right next to me. And I would stand there and just let the electric heater blow heat right on my chest. Because my leg and my arm was spazzing, I don't think I had hypothermia, but I was pretty darn cold. And I couldn't control my arm. So I'm not crazy. I'm doing this because I'm trying to condition for CS. I didn't plan to have shaky arms and legs. I didn't plan for that. I didn't plan to do that to myself, but it happened in the first couple times. The third time I thought, well, I'm out. I knew when to come back into, come home again. And I didn't have shakes since. And I didn't have to put the hot heater on my body. That helped. That stopped the shakes. So, that's not amazing yet. That's not amazing yet. Listen to this. Sometimes the shakes and the sneezes and the coughing and the gagging, well, this is severe stuff, but this is from the Ice Survival Guide, and this can make us amazing people, where we could go out camping someday, and we're so tough. We went out for 2 days, and we hardly wearing any clothing, because, well, it's too cold out. Everybody else, they would never go out in that weather, but we know how to do all this stuff. To the point where we're so amazing that we're warm to the point of our perception, where we're not really warm, but it's fine. We're glad we're not too cold. And so our demeanor and the way we deal with each other is fine. And of course, we're not nuts, we're not crazy people. So we start a fire and we like to be toasty warm. That can be done too while you're doing this stuff. Do it. Don't be crazy. But in the real thing, I guess when I'm doing the shakes and doing the coughing and the gagging, it's because I wasn't calculating right. I never set myself up to play with hypothermia. Never once. It's just that I wasn't paying attention. I was reading my phone too long, and all of a sudden I felt my legs. I was reading my phone for like an hour and a half in this severe cold recently, and I felt my legs, and I tried to move them, and they wouldn't move, and I said, oh no, that's bad. So I had to use some other techniques that are amazing. I have 2 more, and then this video is done. It's kind of a shorter video. What you have to do is, what the Ice Survival says, is he says you're going to walk in the cold, and it'll penetrate your legs, and you'll have where you start to lose the nervous firing of your legs, and you have to do something. So you have to increase your walking speed so you increase the friction of your blood. He's a survivalist for snow in the most severe, where if you don't do what he says, you'll probably die. So level 3 is while you're playing with your death. I've never really gone that far. I've not gone that far ever, I think. So, level 3 is we have to be amazing. And what I'm saying is we have to use the techniques from this U.S. Marine specialist that trained me all this stuff. You have to go into, in your winter time, hopefully if there's snow, and you have to go where there's snow drifts, where the snow kind of flows over a hill, and you know where drifts are, and you study this stuff. You can study pictures of forests online, and you can see where drifts happen. And that's like 3 to 4 feet deep of snow. Go to the drift. Go to the drift. Go to a thick brush. Go to a pile of brush that's there, like a falling tree. Excellent. Go to it when you feel that your legs are a little bit not functioning the way you want them to in the cold. Make it over there, walk fast. And then, this is very strange, but it's effective. Get under there and hide under the wind. If there's a possibility that your body heat will be retained in like a little cove, it's better than being in open flowing air because it's colder. And then you have to beat on your legs, like your palm. Don't punch your legs with fists, though. He said he was punching them with fists, though, when he was in the mountains, because they would drop him off in the mountain by himself, and he had 20 miles to reach base to qualify to be this trainer, and he succeeded in this, doing the things I'm describing. But you don't want to punch your legs because you'll get a Charlie horse, and then your leg will just shoot up in the air and lock up with a Charlie horse. I'm talking about severe problems with your legs and your arms that are from being out there. What you want to do is slap your palm of your hands. But you want to condition your hands because maybe if you haven't ever done that before, your hands aren't tough enough to do the severe, amazing things of level 3. So how you condition your hands is you clap your hands a lot. Clap your hands out in the cold weather or down in the basement. Or it's kind of silly. But it is preparing your hands for impacts like that. Where you're always going to be doing this. And your palms are going to hit your legs. You can hit everywhere where there's like blood flow. Don't hit your knees because there's not a lot of, blood flowing there. Hit the legs, hit the calf muscles. You can hit, you can even hit your stomach on the bottom. But what I'm saying is, you're going to pat your legs, and what happens is the nervous system calls to your brain to retain blood in that area, and the nervous system retracts in the vesicles, I guess, or the vascularity there, where it'll trap blood a little bit longer, or when the blood comes through, it'll accumulate more. You'll have more blood in your legs if you. Well, he said you got to beat your legs. Beat your legs until you get some kind of a warmth in your legs, and he says it works. Get under a snowdrift. Get inside of it, and breathe. Exhale, breathe, and get the warm air from exhale around you. Try and get a little bit of fresh air and mix it in. And he says if you get into like a snow cave and you beat your legs, you can beat your arms. The nervous system will demand that the blood does more in your arms and legs than before, and then it'll be warmer. So I would do this if we were walking along the river and somebody says, well, we're at nighttime, I'm ditching into brush, falling through your snow cave. Let's stop for the night. Let's all go there. We all kind of bunch up in there and cover up. There's nothing wrong with, because it's so cold. There's nothing wrong with beating on your legs and the calf muscles and your quadriceps, because your body itself doesn't know what to do. It's like when you're sleeping. When you're sleeping, your body doesn't know it's cold. For some reason, we don't have a cold mechanism. So your heart rate goes down, and then you fall asleep and you get too cold. And then your body knows to wake up by the nervous response that there's too much cold penetrating to your arms and legs. So it doesn't know when it sleeps that it's not supposed to reduce the heart rate. Your body should somehow increase the heart rate while you're sleeping in the cold. But we can't have that for some reason. Now, let's add 3 things. The first thing I gave you that's amazing is pat your legs. The second thing is that you become a person that doesn't have to be warm. And you begin to operate that for a long period of time. We'll go home and be warm and it'll be nice and stuff, but you have to be both people. You have to be amazing. You have to be like the construction workers. You have to be like the people that work outside in the winter. They work and they're cold, but they're amazing people. Well, some of them can ditch into a truck, You're always going to ditch when it's just starts to be signs of hypothermia and you're sick. So, here's another thing. You don't want to play around with hypothermia and become sick all the time. But I'll tell you, the conditioning that I've done in the past 6 times that I was shivering and coming back home has worked. I walk outside now and I don't wear a scarf and I'm breathing very cold air and I don't have a cold. I don't have a runny nose. I don't have problems breathing or anything. It's because I'm conditioned to the cold. My body has to, well, it kind of feels like my body's a little bit warmer than usual from conditioning. But that only happens when you're awake. It doesn't happen when you're sleeping. But I've been told that there are some amazing farm families from the past, before they had, a lot of money and stuff. I've heard stories. Now, like I said, go to your relativity. Study the farm families. If you really like this stuff, you'll become an amazing survival specialist, like this U.S. Marines trainer that trained me all this stuff. You become really amazing. And you'll actually want to go outside in the wintertime, and you have stamina. And what I'm saying, though, is you'll actually be a little bit warmer in the future, because you're conditioning your body to be warmer. You'll be able to handle it, but you have to do a lot of specific things so you don't get sick. But I think I've conditioned enough for this winter where I don't think I'm going to get a cold again. That's amazing that we can figure all this stuff out. And it kind of I don't have to take cold medicine or anything. I don't have to worry about it. At the beginning of the winter, I was sneezing, runny nose, blowing my nose. Instead of just staying inside, I conditioned myself by going out in the cold. But I did other things too. Here's the second amazing thing with wolves and being a cold weather type. Become a cold weather type. It's very interesting. And you don't get sick if you follow what I'm saying. You won't get sick. It'll probably overcome your colds. You just have to do it right. You can't do it too much. I've overcome the colds. But to be amazing and sustain that, you have to eat fruits like tomatoes and oranges and bananas, because it contains the right nutrition for your body to have the immune system. So make sure you do that. Make sure you eat, in this CS, you should eat oranges or tomatoes a lot. Then you're confident that you have the immune system and you won't get the colds. You don't have to buy the cold medicines. But I want to tell you about another amazing trick. And this is kind of like what weightlifters do when they take steroids. It does something in the cell processes where it just grows muscle. It causes it to grow muscle in response to their weightlifting. But in time, it becomes a stress to their organs, because they grow so much muscle that they're not matching the size of their vascular system or their heart. So it's like you have this small engine, let's say, in a truck, and you decide to take this small engine and put it in a very large truck. That's not really that good. And you're going up a hill and it's really working this engine. It's working this engine, this small engine, in this big truck, and it doesn't really work anymore. And you have to slow down. You have to use slower gears, and it just barely works. That's what happens to weightlifters when they gain a lot of muscle from steroids, because it gains the muscle too fast. It's amazing, but their heart doesn't grow. So they have to walk slower. They kind of are lethargic with steroids, and their heart's too small, and it's being worked too hard. And some of them die from heart attacks. A friend of ours died. His name was Art. He was a champion bodybuilder. He was sponsored by a major brand of protein shakes and stuff. And he was about to win Mr. Olympia. I think he placed third or something in the preliminaries to Mr. Olympia. Just a giant guy, but he took steroids. You could see it. Those muscles are too big, for normal weightlifting. And plus, he was a hard weightlifter. He was like a wrestler in the past, and he liked to weightlift for 6 hours, and stuff. He was a monster. But he died, and his heart gave out because he didn't match the growth of his muscles with the size of his heart. This is the survival stuff. How we can become amazing is what I'm saying is, I want to share something with you that you can experiment with. It's like a steroid. But you have to make sure it matches who you are, like I said. Otherwise, you could probably become sick from what I'm saying. But this has to be in level 3. We have to have some type of amazing person that we have traveling through these riverbeds being chased by soldiers. We have to survive. The car broke down. Don't just run in the river and die. be those amazing people. Here's what you do, and this is what I've done in this conditioning in the past 6 weeks. There's a medicine that I have called Allerclear. It's an allergy medicine. I'm not aware if I have allergies. I think I don't. But I knew I was sneezing a lot from cold weather exposure. And I said, well, I have to go out on my hikes and I have to condition for, survival and stuff. I can't just listen to my body telling me to stay home and I'm getting sick. I can't do this. I know if I go out to a certain measure, I'll condition and I'll overcome the sickness. If I have intelligent maneuvers and I don't overdo it. And it's very cold out now. Well, I was noticing that I would sneeze every day. After my hikes, I'd be sitting here eating dinner after, hiking. Achoo, achoo, achoo. What's going on? 8 sneezes in a row every day of the week. But what I saw is my body was trying to force air through my nose in these sneezes. And I would study the sneeze. The sneeze is meant to dislodge debris or to clear out your sinus. It's been irritated by dust, and the nerves sends a response to your mind through your nervous system to sneeze to clear it out. But that's not what was happening. But for some reason, when I was breathing through my nose, you could feel it in the nervous system. Something was irritating my nose. I don't know what it was. So I said, hey, this is from the cold air. Because I breathe through my nose kind of unusually because I want to warm the air. And I said, wow, the nervous system in my nose is kind of interpreting this as dust or something that it doesn't like. So when I would come in the house, my nervous system in my nasal tract was breathing warm air. And so there was this change from severe cold through my nose to this warm air. And then I would start sneezing every single day. And I said, this is ridiculous. What if I go up to 20 sneezes? And it wasn't like one after another. It wasn't like achoo, 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 like 8 sneezes and it was done. It was for a few minutes, I'd go achoo, and I'd do a real hard sneeze. And then I would try and hope that it would stop. I wouldn't have another sneeze, and then another sneeze would come. And it would take, I would monitor this. It would take 7 sneezes to stop the irritation in my nasal tract from cold air and warm air mixture from my hikes. So I said, there's nothing I can do. My nasal tract gets irritated now, but I have to breathe in through my nasal tract because it's so cold out. Breathe through my mouth, it's not enough, and then I start getting this deathly cold feeling through my body, and I can't make it. I can't make the long distance or the long time outside. Well, now it's not the long distance, but I do the long time outside, and I walk slower. So that I just kind of threshold above, sickness, hypothermia, shakes, things like that, sneezes. I couldn't solve the sneezes in what I needed to do. I needed to breathe through my nose. I needed to walk slower because I didn't want to sweat, and I wanted to get used to and be the amazing cold guy, I don't want to be warm outside. I just want to be a survival guy. But I don't want to wear clothes and be sick. So I was finding this. This is the level 3, though. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. But this would be, a military class training. This is from the United States military, the stuff that I'm giving you. Now, the Allerclear is a real small pill. And the bottle is the size of your 3 fingers or something. It's very small. And the bottle contains 300 pills. Allerclear, I think it costs, it's a little expensive, $25. But it's a real neat trick. It's like a steroid. But I don't have allergies. How can I take an allergy medicine? Because I have an understanding what Allerclear is. Read about it. A-L-L-E-R, clear. But don't try to hurt yourself, is what I'm saying, biologically or chemically. It won't hurt you if you do what I say. The Allerclear adjusts your nervous system in your nasal tract and your mind where the sneezes are and stuff like that. And the desire for you to cough because something is irritating your lungs. It's the nervous system in your nose and in all of your lung tracts and your the issue of irritation, and you want to cough, 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 or gag, or sneeze, sneeze, sneeze. And I thought I'd be sneezing the rest of my life because, well, I'm going outside and through the winters, and I'll be sneezing for all these winters, sitting home, sneeze, sneeze, sneeze 10 sneezes. I said, I have to go to a doctor. I have to stop this sneeze. But all I do is take this really little pill called Allerclear, and the pill is like, well, I don't know. It's hard to describe it. It's like the size of a little poppy seed. It's very small. And you take this pill, and what it does is it adjusts your nervous reaction to irritation in your nose and in your lungs. But I read what it does, and I said, that's fake. That's not solving your allergies. You have to make sure that you're okay, like there's not too much dust in your nose or your lungs or something. Like maybe you should cough if there's dust in your nasal tract. So what it does is it stops you from sneezing. It plays with the nervous system. Well, that's okay if there's something wrong with your nervous system or you're sneezing and it's not necessary. Well, I determined that there's no dust in my nose and there's no dust in my lungs. I haven't walked through a dust cloud. But my sneezing was consistent. And I said, well, I don't need to sneeze. So I took the Allerclear and I went 1 day, 2 days after taking this little pill every day, 3 days, 4 days. I didn't sneeze. I said, hey, I'm cured of this 10 sneezes. Because it did something to my nervous system to stop the signaling to my mind about the irritation in my nose. So the next step is I wanted to say, well, I don't want to play with my body too much and do something wrong. Because I'm not an allergy. But like I said, this is how steroids kind of work. It does something to your body and it works really incredible. It's amazing, but if you're not careful, it could cause you to be, in trouble. So they outlaw a lot of drugs in bodybuilding. They try them, like androstenedione. I think it's illegal now. I did androstenedione. It's not a steroid. It's like borderline, but it alters chemical processes and nervous processes, and it just causes your muscles to grow. But they determined that the amount of muscle growth was too fast. And like I said, it's in reference to all of your organs processing things, like your liver cleans out poisons from your body, and stuff. Well, you can't grow bigger organs to match all this muscle. That's what I think is wrong with steroids. Nobody even knows this. I don't even think Arnold Schwarzenegger knows what I'm talking about. That those guys are too big for their body organs. And they can't sustain it late in life either. They can't go to 60 with all that muscle and stuff. So maybe they need to accept in the future, Mr. Olympia, the guys need to go from where they're at 280 down back to what Arnold Schwarzenegger actually was, like 245. And then maybe try and set some real strict limits on these guys, like test them for these, drugs and stuff. Don't let them do the drugs for their own safety. Well, Allerclear works to stop your sneezes and your coughing, but you want to make sure that it's stopping the sneezing and coughing, but make sure you don't need to sneeze and cough. If you're really an amazing person, you might take Allerclear, and what happens is you don't have all these strange reactions in the cold. I found Allerclear to work fantastic. Like, I take the Allerclear now once in a while, like once every 2 days or 3 days. I tried taking 2 of them, which somebody would say is like an overdose. I found that I didn't need to take 2 of them, and I'm a larger body, like 240 pounds. Just this little tiny pill is enough to change your nervous reactions in your nose and your lungs, so I can breathe through my scarves how I want to. I can breathe through my nose more. It's kind of irritating in your nasal tract, And so, but my nasal tract is slowly conditioning to cold air, I guess, and then heating the cold air. But I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to hurt myself. I want a sneeze to happen if I have to sneeze and there's something wrong. But not 10 sneezes a day every single day. So I took Allerclear and it completely stopped all of my sneezing and my coughing. But I'm careful to watch that I haven't done an artificial manipulation of my nervous system. And there is something wrong. This is how you can become amazing, is you can just go out and say, well, the cold's, well, I'm getting too cold, I got to go home. That's common sense. Kids do that when they go out and play in the wintertime. But this is a little bit more. Now, I'm not going to teach your children to stay out longer because, I'm doing some kind of crazy thing. But if they knew some things about CS, well, I wouldn't recommend it to young children. I would say maybe if you're a little bit older, like in your 16 to 18, you're a little bit stronger. And your body can take these things. Well, if you did take the Allerclear, just one pill, once in a while, not every day, like once every 3 days, I think it would cause in your nervous system for you to go out and be able to hike for long periods of time, and you don't feel like something's wrong inside. Like I always felt like something was wrong, like my lungs are going crazy in my nasal tract. What is wrong? Well, it's because you're out too long in the cold. But I need to push for some type of a condition where I'm more amazing for survival. The Allerclear could bring you to where you find if it's unnecessary coughing and sneezing. I actually have gained that knowledge, and I know if I'm coughing, if it's kind of unnecessary. If it's coughing too much. And it proved to be true. I was out too long in the cold after Allerclear maybe like 2 days ago. But I know it's still in my system and it's affecting my nervous system. I don't want to do it every day because I don't have allergies. And I don't want to make something false. I want to make something legitimate. What I think was false was my body was overreacting to the cold. I kind of found that it was. Because what happened is, because of the Allerclear, like once, like infrequent, I can go out in the cold now longer than before. And I get, cold, but I'm not shaking, and I'm not coughing, and I'm not sneezing. And I come back and I'm, put my key in the door, and I'm cold. But I'm not shaking like I was like 4 or 6 weeks ago. I'm not shaking my body from being out too long. And I come in the house, it's real cold, and I had to heat up and everything. But I wasn't in a severe state of coughing, shaking, and sneezing, which is dangerous. And I said, well, I was out just as long as when I didn't take the Allerclear. When I did take the Allerclear, it stopped these sneezings and coughings and these shakes. My nervous system isn't going crazy because I'm irritating with the cold, which is kind of how allergies are. But that kind of happens with like substances. It just kind of irritates you, and it has to sneeze. Your eyes well up, you're coughing, your nose is running. It's a reaction to irritants that enter your system. The irritants that are entering my system, I'm breathing in very cold air, and I'm exposing myself to cold longer than a normal person. For the purpose of conditioning myself, but if you keep getting sick, it's not conditioning you. If you take Allerclear frequently and you're not sneezing and you're not shaking, just make sure that's not false. Check for other symptoms. Is there pain in your chest or your nose and you're not sneezing or coughing? Is it a placebo effect or a strange reaction by Allerclear where maybe you should cough or sneeze? I don't think so. I determined it. I determined that the Allerclear could bring me to an understanding through experiment is that I can go out longer in the cold now, and I'm more amazing for survival. Now what I want to do is go off of Allerclear and not take it for like as long as I can until I start sneezing and coughing and shaking again. What I think will happen is I don't need to take Allerclear And I can probably pass through the winter and I won't be coughing and shaking and twitching and stuff from the cold. Because I'm out there a long time sometimes. I'm not trying to be toasty warm. I'm trying to be a survival, interest. Not too much, though. Not too much, but it's not going to be toasty warm out there. Just admit it. Let's get through this. Let's be soldiers in a war and admit that we might not be toasty warm that much unless there's a fire going. But live through that. Be tough. Be strong. Be amazing. The aloe clear can, I think, here's what I think will happen. I'll stop taking aloe clear today just because of this tape. There's another hour of tape. I'm sorry, but this is real survival stuff. So it's not terrifying, so it's not scaring you, so it's not impossible and you don't want to do it. You're actually moving into something where you're becoming a survivalist, and it's working. It's working amazingly. I can create that for someone. It's like becoming a great bodybuilder. I can create that for someone too. You have to do some greater things. So the aloe clear, I believe, is what I'll do is stop, and I'll try it for as long as it takes, and I'm not sneezing, coughing, shaking, or twitching from the cold when I come back home. At first I was twitching in my legs and arms for an hour, and I said, this is really severe. I think I should never really try to condition for survival. I can't do it. But I found that I could. Your body does respond. It repairs from that, and the next time you go out, there's some type of thing. It's like lifting weights. You're somewhat conditioned, but you could worsen, So I think the aloe clear would worsen if I kept taking it every day, and I found that I could go out without coughs, shakes, or sneezes. But maybe I needed to sneeze or something, And it was irritating my body. So what I'm going to do is stop aloe clear. Aloe clear for a week. But I know what's going to happen. I have a certain type of nervous system that doesn't like the cold. I'm not really conditioned for severe survival. I used to go out for bursts of 1 or 2 hours for years, and I didn't try 3. Now I'm trying 3 and 4, and my nervous system is not able to do that. I'll sneeze and sneeze and sneeze, and it's too much. I can't handle these sneezings that last for 10 minutes straight, I can't handle that. There's something wrong. So, I have to retain wanting to do greater amounts of time outside for survival to see how my personal system can work. The aloe clear will work. I believe the sneezing and coughing that you do is not really that necessary. And you're just, your nervous system kind of made you sneeze, and it's a little too sensitive. I believe that's true. I believe you could take aloe clear straight through the winter, once every 2 days, and you could be outside for 3 hours in the cold. You'll never cough, sneeze, or shake, because it reduced the sensitivity of your body and your nervous system is, because you're pampered all of your life, you're indoors. But really, there's nothing really that bad happening to you. I mean, your toes aren't turning blue, your fingers aren't turning blue. Well, that's very severe. So it's kind of like toning down your reaction to the cold by the aloe clear. That's what it does. But I'll stop doing it. I think either I'm conditioned by it, kind of like a vaccine. I just do a little bit of it to cause change in the nervous system. It's like a vaccine using aloe clear in reference to long times in the cold weather as a survivalist. It's quite amazing for me to have these radical sneezing stop completely. I haven't sneezed in a week. Totally amazing. Well, if somebody could come by and say, you don't have an amazing survival tape, you've given us our survival, and you just had allergies and you took aloe clear and it worked, so we don't believe you. No, I've never had a history of allergies. It happened because I was starting to spend more time outside, sitting to see how I can condition myself for survival, in addition to my normal, slow hikes. Well, I can cut it back to 2 and I'll be fine. I think my nervous system won't react without the Allerclear. I think if I stay and try to do more and do like, less driving buses or somebody giving me a ride, and I actually walk more, and I'm cold out there, very cold. But I can integrate, walk in a store unusually, just walk in the store and heat up. You don't have to be crazy in this thing, but try things. Try a little bit of conditioning, and it happens like a vaccine effect. It's a lot like it. So what I'll do is I'll pull off the Allerclear because I want to save this, because it's expensive to buy Allerclear. What I want to do is not use the Allerclear until I sneeze again, and go out and not be afraid of the duration, and be cold out there and stuff, but not hypothermic. If I start feeling the shakes, or if I start feeling, wow, this is too much, my hands don't work, I can't put the key in the lock or something. It has been that in the past. Or, what I'm saying is I believe there's a vaccine effect, and maybe I could just quit Allerclear and I'll go through the whole winter and I have quite the endurance in the cold. I don't have shakes, coughs, or sneezes. And so if I have that where I'm not sneezing for the rest of the whole, winter, then we've discovered that Allerclear has the ability to do a vaccine, which is a condition my nervous system not to be so sensitive and cough all the time. And it's just kind of cool air that I'm breathing. I'm not breathing in dust or anything. But I don't want to deaden my nervous system is the last thing I want to say, which kind of is what Allerclear kind of does. It kind of deadens your nerves so you don't sneeze or cough or have radical irritation reactions. But there is a certain point at which your nervous system does overreact, I think. But I would like to determine what Allerclear is for real. Is that person sick? And he took Allerclear and he doesn't have any sick symptoms, but he has other sickness side effects, and he's actually sick. And he has this strange manipulation of his nervous system by Allerclear. Well, that's what they do in bodybuilding all the time with these drugs, creatine, androstenedione, and then the steroid, which is the worst and illegal, is they cause things to happen in your cells and in your nervous processes to fool the cells, essentially, to divide so that you grow muscle. You want more cell division. Without the drugs, the cells don't divide because there's no trauma to the area of cells where they have to fight back and divide and create more muscle. As it kind of tricks the cells to believe in the other way in bodybuilding that there's something wrong and they need to divide and become more muscle. Cell division. Well, that's not really nice to do to your body, so I'm against drugs. I never did, when I was a bodybuilder, I never did steroids because I saw bad side effects. I saw muscle growth too fast, and I saw vascular problems where they were having problems breathing, all kinds of stuff. I had personal friends that did steroids. They had problems, physical problems. I took Andro. I thought it made some muscle growth, but I stopped taking it because they were illegal. At one time legal, and then it went back to illegal, I think. So there was no Andro that I took, but I took creatine, which retains water in your cells. But we don't know if we're supposed to do that to our cells. It has the effect of eating a lot of salt and creatine, which is a natural way to cause your body to want to retain water. But you see what I'm saying? There's something that the salt is attacking this area of cells in your muscles. The salt is too much, and it's causing the processes to be, attacked. If you eat too much salt, it attacks your body, and then you have to have thirst reactions, and you have to drink water, and then it's okay. And then your cells are retaining water, so the creatine does a false effect, like I'm doing with the Allerclear. It does a false effect and causes your body to retain water like salt does. But we don't know if we're supposed to be doing that. But I found that the creatine was pretty safe. And I grew a lot of muscle from it because I had a lot of bloating like water. But I mean, you're not the prettiest looking guy when you retain water. As a bodybuilder, it looks like kind of like body fat. Or it looks like your face is kind of puffed up. But in these winter months or something, or you don't care about showing yourself to your lady or something for a while, wow, you could probably do 50% more muscle gains from creatine. Another thing is you can take a smaller dosage of the creatine, and it has like I said, like the Allerclear can have a vaccine effect. Because I haven't taken Allerclear for 4 days. Yesterday, I noticed that it was a little too cold. Like I was out there and I couldn't stay out very long. So I said, well, maybe I need to take the Allerclear, which kind of deadens my nervous reactions. Because the reason you can't stay out there is not only because you actually are cold or you're hypothermic or there's something wrong. It's your nervous system is just signaling your mind like it's too much. You got to go home. You have to pursue warmth. But that's not really true is what I'm saying. It's not really true what your nervous system is saying. So I took Allerclear again yesterday after 4 days. And then I went out today and I didn't feel my nervous system signaling that there's all these irritations, because it's an anti-allergy medicine. So I'm going to try and stop it for like 2 weeks or more and see. And what I'll do is accept that I might have, nervous reactions. What will happen if I stop Allerclear? Because I want nervous reactions. I want that to be natural. I don't want to do like the bodybuilders where you mess with everything. You mess with your nerves. You mess with your cells by these drugs. But I think Allerclear is pretty good, though, because I think sometimes when you're sick, it's kind of an overreaction in your nervous system. But we want to know exactly what it is. We want to know if we're sick or not. I can determine it, and I can say, well, I probably just don't have to do level 3. So I don't have to keep discovering it and keep conditioning. Maybe stay in level 2, use some walls, and only go out for 2 hours. Just keep doing that through the winter. If I was like 17 years old, I would do level 1 and level 2 and just come back home after 2 hours out in the severe cold. But go out there every day. Don't go into 3 and 4 and try and get 5 hours. But that would help you with the CS River survival overnight. And you would discover that you would need to hike to stay warm. If you sit still, you would need to stay awake. Because if you did fall asleep, you would fall into a cold state that you would start shaking and twitching. But if I was 17 years old doing the CS, I would probably be curious about the level 3. And I would say, well, I'm going to take some Allerclear. Because I can go out and breathe through my nose cold air, and the Allerclear stops the sensitivity, and it's not going to make me sneeze and cough and shake, and it's not going to shut down just because I'm breathing in cold air. And I think I have enough nervous sensitivity to know if I breathe in cold air through my nose, that it's not actually freezing my nasal tract. It's not that bad. It's just irritating, and the Allerclear stops the symptoms. Allerclear, I'm going to say this at the end of this tape, it doesn't really solve a physical problem. It doesn't really help you with allergies. It just kind of adjusts it if your allergy is that your nervous system is too reactive. It kind of tones down your nervous system, which is good. It's kind of like a fix. But it's like these bodybuilding drugs and stuff. Well, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. So in the future, I don't plan to use Allerclear. But if I do long exposure out for survival, it's probably because I'm, going to be 58 years old, that I'm just too old to do this. So I'll stay in the 2 hours in level 1 and 2, and I'll use wolves, and I'll walk, and I won't sit long, and stuff like that. Because I'm older, so you have to study everything. But it could be possible that I could prolong my stay in the outdoors by Allerclear. And then I find I make it through the whole winter. I took Aller Clear like once every 3 days. I didn't sneeze. I didn't shake. I didn't have twitches in my legs while I'm walking. I didn't fall while I'm walking from twitches. And I was walking to stay warm, but you can't walk for 4 hours. And then I sat somewhere like at a picnic table, but it was outside, or a park bench. It was outside in the winter time. And I stayed there. I read my phone for an hour and a half. That's a lot in the cold. But I'm conditioning for the river survival, but what I want to focus on at the end of this is an hour and 13 minutes, is I want to concern with overnight in a military transaction where I'm worried about the sniper. So I can't get the fire at nighttime. It's just very cold. I can't make myself great for nighttime yet. That could be because of my age, because I'm 58. Or I'm going to be 58 next spring. I'll just never be able to do it. And I'll have to use fires at night, and, well, there's a risk there. Then I can do it. 58 years old, the condition that I'm in, after hiking all my life, I can endure. I can probably endure 2 to 3 hours hiking, and then I can sit for an hour and a half. If I have a fire, I can turn that into 3 or 4 hours. That's like 7 hours overnight. I can make it through the river survival overnight, but I might have to do it with fires. So what we're looking for is that the bodybuilder or the Mr. Olympia, I'll close the tape off with this, of the ITMCS, the Mr. Olympia or the greats in it, can make it through at nighttime. Well, that's going to be probably the young people, the people that don't mind having like body fat, because that can keep you warm. Somebody that's a little heavier, but I would try it without body fat so that we have a challenge. And people look nicer without body fat, I like how people look when they're even skinny. But that does help in survival. So those people would rank in this, But we want to say that average people can migrate in, military blackouts and stuff like that. You don't have to be fat to do my system, but it would help you in the wintertime to make it overnight without fires. You would scathe past snipers. So, to get through the night, I think it's going to be wolves. It's going to be wolves and some type of a person that's conditioned. And the younger people will be able to do it. And you're going to have to get up after, sleeping. Maybe you fall asleep at night and you just couldn't hold back. You tried to sleep in your cocoon, you're going to have to get up and you're going to have to pat your legs like the survival specialist told me you have to do. You have to beat on your legs until there's circulation so that you can feel the use of your legs. You start to fire, power into your legs to move it, and you move your feet and everything. You don't want any unusual stiffness or coldness in your legs. And if you beat your legs, you can compensate for how you fell asleep and your temperature went way down, and that's too risky. You want to get through that dark night, third shift, kind of a marsupial thing, without fires. When the light comes in the morning at 7, well, you can start a fire and you're warm then. And that's the psychological aspect, as you're going through the dark night. Well, I could call that a series ahead. ITMCS called The Dark Night. It's how to get through without getting hit by snipers and rifles and stuff, and migrate. It's powerful. It's real powerful. So the conditioning in this video, if you did it, you'd be an amazing soldier too. You could work in trenches for long periods of times. You could survive. You could learn to, well, I don't know if they sleep in the daytime. They sleep whenever, I don't know. That's another topic to study. I've studied it some. But that's interesting to study how they sleep, eat, and shoot and defend themselves in the trenches of warfare. We should study that, know that stuff. That could add to this. So somebody might say, well, I have it. I have it now. I don't want to take it to level 3 yet. I don't want to be an amazing person in the survival, but I want amazing, like, clothing, scarves, amazing techniques that you give me. And I don't know if I can make it through the dark night yet. I don't want to take it to level 3. I'd say that's fine. That's fine. But the survival specialist could do it. He himself, my friend, U.S. Marines, who taught me a lot of these things, he could accomplish the dark night, especially when he was in his 20s and 30s as a U.S. military survival trainer. He could accomplish this. He could get through the night without a fire that the enemy sees. He could get through the day with fires and hunting, and he could sustain his own life as he travels a distance of 20 miles. So I've given you a lot of the things that he shared with me. He himself can do it. They know about conditioning. They know about a lot of conditioning of soldiers and stuff like that. We can be conditioned. But like I said, lastly, don't take Allerclear because you have the shivers. But I'm telling you, it could help you. Because the shivers might not be exactly what it is. Your body might not need to shiver, is what I'm saying. But determine it. Determine if you, in fact, are sick. Is the Allerclear does stop. I found it stops shivering, it stops sneezing, it stops coughing, and it works great. And it's just some type of a tool that we can use with all of our conditioning and the wools and all the techniques and the lean-tos and the cocoons from this great survival trainer that taught me all this stuff. So, I believe we can go into level 3. Let's keep it as a fantasy military. And let's go in it and learn it, but maybe not enact it today. Don't go outside too long that you kind of hurt yourself, you know. You think you're conditioning, but you have to have a very knowledgeable conditioning. Gain a lot of knowledge about it, study about it. But yes, in the future, if you really want to do the ITM CS, it's a great thing. Become a great person in it. Become a great survivalist. Don't just wear great clothing. Don't have a great technique from me. Be the physical great person in it. So I hope you enjoyed this video.